Well, morning YouTube video. Hey, some of the guys have been doing my tour, two or three of you guys. Why, you give me some nice comments. So, tour of the service truck, why, they're always very entertaining and I enjoy them because I look at a guy's truck and I look at his tools and I can see how a guy thinks. You know, tools are whatever trade you're in. Your tools say a lot about you and say what kind of how you really view your trade. Well, I want to talk to you about a tool here that is never seen one commercially made. I ran across this when I worked for Cummins engine distributor. There was an old guy there, one of the great generation guys, and so he built this fuel system tester. So the issues was with the truck engines, especially in the old days with the old air quip hoses that the rubber would deteriorate. So the issue was bad running engines because of one or two things: restriction or sucking air. And that still holds true for all engines. But I've never seen a better designed system to be able to go to a truck or any diesel engine equipment and within 5 or 10 minutes be able to identify if there is a problem in the fuel supply system. So what this guy did, he designed a tester that simulates engine draw or engine demand on a fuel system. You take and you connect the system where the engine suction ends, goes into a fuel pump, and then from that point on, the engine fuel pump converts it to pressure. So if you hook into the engine fuel supply with this pump, this tester, you're going to know within 5 or 10 minutes if you have a problem with either restrictions or with sucking air. And almost what it is, as I show it to you here, take and realize that almost what he did was come up with a device that takes and simulates engine demand on fuel supply. So let me get you unhooked from the ladder here and let me show you what he come up with. And I think you guys are going to see something very unique here. And this is something of a YouTube video, which I think is in the full spirit of YouTube, has been able to share ideas. And this idea here is going to be very important for the heavy equipment guys, for the ag guys, for the truck guys, and probably even for the pickup truck guys. These new all this guys dealing with the pickup trucks. So anyway, let me take you down and show you what old Ralph Plunkett come up with. Now Ralph, he came out to the slogging country, Northern California, from a place called Spartanburg, Texas. If you know where that is, why, that's something, because it's just a crossroads with a Baptist church, a store, and a cotton gin. He rode the rails after the war, and he was probably one of the, back then with those guys, he was one of the sharpest around. So let me show you what he come up with here. And I can show you that up until recently, it's always been kind of hard to duplicate this. So let me give you a tour here. So this is what Ralph designed. And what you're looking at is a Detroit diesel two-stroke fuel pump. It's powered by the old-time heater blower motor. and it's controlled by a old-time rheostat. Now, it's very simple in that the pump pulls fuel, but what he did, he took and he hooked it up to a Cummins sight glass, and he teed in with a vacuum gauge. So with a sight glass, this thing's running, and you run it slow. You want to kind of run it at about the same flow that an engine would create. If you've got air in the system, you're going to see it. Now, this system has been around for a long time in Cummins' service tools, and I think they use it in refrigeration too. And then this is just a regular vacuum gauge, so that, and it'll measure that if there's any restriction, like a plugged filter, well, that needle will just start climbing. So you hook the supply into your supply, and it used to be these old number 10 fittings. So you hook this into where your supply, your fuel supply, goes into the engine. Then you attach up your cord, turn on your rheostat, you get your fuel flowing, and in 5 or 10 minutes, well, man, you can see if there's air in there, you know it. If it's plugged, you know it. And then you just take and you work your hose back toward the tank in order to identify where the problem is, whether it's a restriction or whether it is sucking air. Now, we also use this too on the pressure side. So, and back in those days with these, if you guys are familiar with the old double-breasted Yamahas, they had a lot of internal fuel leaks, the jumper cables. So what you would do, you'd take and hook this into a fuel supply, put this in the discharge end into the engine, cap off the fuel return line, and then just turn your pump on, and this thing will supply about 65 pounds of pressure to the fuel system. So on the old Detroits there, why you'd see those jumpers right off. Cummins, they had a problem of sometimes the fuel coming up around the injectors. And what the new ones are anymore, I don't know. I just stay out of engines for a long time now. But any of you, whatever trade you guys are in, you'll know whether you have fuel dilution issues. Well, this will identify it, because you can take and pressurize the fuel system without the engine running. So you don't have any valve train moving or anything like that. You got pressure in your fuel system, and you'll be able to see if there is any sort of a leak. Now, for road service, this thing is absolutely great for priming out engines where the driver ran out of fuel. And in the old cats, why, man, that was pretty important, because they were just, those old 06s, why, they were just a bitch to get started. So I'd put this in there, I'd pressurize the system, I'd disconnect the air hose from the air compressor, and as the driver was cranking, I'd shoot a little ether in there, and then pretty soon it'd catch. I mean, they were just a real bitch to get going. So this has, as you start using it, it has a lot of functions. But now this thing here, this thing is an arc and spark and bomb. If you ever to get, say, a DIYer and he thinks he's going to pump gasoline, you're going to have a hell of a fire, because this thing just does nothing but it arcs, it sparks as it runs that electric motor. I've used it for all these years. I've been out on my own here for 40 years. So me and we get along fine. To build one now, this is a hard item to find. So to be able to move it up to where we make this thing more safe and where we could give it to a DIYer, why, here I have one set up here. This is the same thing. This is a Detroit fuel pump. It has a sight glass, and it's got a vacuum gauge, and it has a source. If this is brushless, let's see, fuel, yeah, brushless. So we don't got any arcing and sparking. Well, you can take and run this. Anybody can run this, and you got power to it. Make the fuel flow. It'll work. I mean, this is a pretty cool thing. But you got to boneyard. You got to take and you got to find you a fuel pump. And these old Detroit fuel pumps, they work pretty good. Now, recently, there has been an item come out in the market, which is this fluid pump. So I'm thinking that if any of you guys want to build your own fuel system tester, get you one of these fluid pumps. If you take a T like this, mount it in the suction line, you would attach your attach a vacuum gauge to that. Here's your clear line. You can see if you got air bubbles. And then at the ends of it, you're going to have to put the fittings, whatever it is that you're going to want to hook up to. Now, this thing looks like it's a little problematic, I think, because it's all metric. Hose isn't quite 3/8 or whatever. So I'll leave that up to you to take and figure out how you want to get into the system where you can put a T, and then what ends you want to put on it. And that's going to, I guess, hinge in the industry that you are in. But with the advent of this fuel pump here, now guys can, if they see the value, have the need of either diagnosing fuel restriction problems on any engine, all the way up to the great big old earth movers, your farm stuff, all the way down to your pickup trucks. Why, this thing will, always what it has to do is to be able to pump the same amount of volume of fuel that the engine demand is. Now in the truck realm, why generally the hoses were number 10, number 8, number 6. So you take and you build your, I would take these old, cut them off and braze them to where I could go, this is a number 8 to a 10. This is a number 8 to a 6. Here we got a 10 to a 6. A couple of 10 to 8s. And then there's a 10 to an 8. Then you use your, you got to use these things too. Now the new advance, we come in, we got Volvo. They want to use these fittings here. So you come up with that for your supply and your delivery. You have then you have these where they want to use these nylon air hoses. So whatever it is that your field is, whatever the connections you use, well, you'll have to come up with that on your own there and figure that part out. But as far as a unit that will take and quickly identify air and restriction, I've never seen anything built that can do it. I don't think there is anything commercial. I actually drew up plans one time, tried to sell them, but I don't know any commercial made fuel system tester out there. So this thing is very beneficial for priming new engines. The only problem you have in this one here for priming is that the way I use it, you have to open up the fuel system, and once you get the engine running, why, then you got to take and reconnect your fuel supply hose to your engine and get the engine running again. Now, the cat guy on YouTube, Adapt Ape, why, he had a clip out where he primes engines by taking a Venturi parts washer vacuum effect. He hooks it on the return line at the back of the engine, and it just takes and by Venturi action sucks the fuel all the way through the system. And that, for priming, that's going to be more efficient than this, because this will take, and once you have to break it apart, hook up the hoses, you'll take, and then you got to figure out how to get the air out. Although most of the trucks anymore have hand pumps, and you can do that. The slick one, where this really works good, with a Computech fitting here hooked onto it for the Detroit motors. So, if I'm got to take and guy out of fuel, why, you just you put some fuel in it, or you can just take your suction here. You can put it down into a 5-gallon bucket or whatever. You take that, plug it into the fuel filter housing, and turn your pump on, and you've got him primed up there on the side of the road. So anyway, this is probably one of the most interesting and important things I could show you guys, is this fuel system tester. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can see the value of it. And until now, and until the time of these little fluid pumps here, I've never known a way to figure out how to make it real easy and make it safe. Because this whole thing here, I mean, shoot, a fire marshal would throw a fit if you ever saw this thing. And these rheostats, they're hard to find anymore. But here, get yourself an electric drill or your whatever. You can vary your speed. You want to run it slow for testing the suction and the restriction. If you get the flow going too much, you'll actually pull air in and you'll fool yourself. So you want to kind of have the same amount of flow that an engine would normally use. And then if you want to pressurize something, why, you just hook the system into the supply on your engine, and you can speed up your drill, create more pressure, where it will, and you have your fuel return capped off in the back of your motor. Oh, man, this will pressurize your system. You can, your valve cover's off there. You can look all around. If you got some little leak, well, you'll be able to see it. So this is something worthwhile to share with you guys, and I hope that you like it. So good luck with it. Enjoy. Thanks.